The transgender community is also going to feel the impact of the actions taken by President Trump yesterday.
ABC 7 News reporter Lena Howland is here in studio with reaction to this order declaring the federal government will only recognize two genders. Lena.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order today that directs the Department of Defense to revise the Pentagon's policy on transgender service members, a move that could lead to a ban on transgender troops serving in the military. And it's already
yesterday, President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender women and girls from college women's and high school girls' sports teams.
A third order cuts federal support for gender transitions for anyone under the age of 19. It also directs that federally run insurance programs exclude coverage for such medical care.
You're saying you're better than a boy?
Well, I mean, for a girl, I like to roughhouse. I did jiu-jitsu for like 3 months. And then, I don't like shopping. So yeah, that's a boyish kind of attitude.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Mallory. I'm 18 years old. My pronouns are he, him, and I've been living as a transgender man for the past 5 years. If you couldn't tell, that was me in the last clip, about 1 million years ago. My transition has not been an easy one. It's been easier than some, for sure, but a difficult one nonetheless. But I've been able to get through it with the help of friends, family, medical professionals, and I think most importantly, accurate information. I'm making this project for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because my identity as a trans man is very important to me. It has been for the past 5 years, and I think it will continue to be for the rest of my life. Second, because I want to be an advocate for the LGBTQ community. I have been in my school and with my friends and in my small, close-knit community, but I want to continue to be and want to expand my advocacy for other people who are going through similar issues and have gone through the same thing that I have.
Third, I recently underwent a very important procedure known as top surgery, which is a common step in many trans male individuals' transition. This surgery is a life-changing one, but there are many misconceptions surrounding it which can be harmful if treated as fact. Finally, and the reason I think that this project is so important right now, is our current presidential administration. In the short time Donald J. Trump has been in office so far this term, he has made multiple targeted attacks against the LGBTQ+ community, especially the trans community. These attacks, like you saw at the start, range from banning trans people from serving in the military to erasing trans people's existence from government documents and websites. It has been found that anti-LGBTQ+ legislation like this not only drives alarmingly high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide, but also causes trans and non-binary youth and their families to feel unsafe and to consider moving to a new state entirely. One misconception that I tend to hear a lot in the media from anti-trans Republicans and conservatives is the idea that gender-affirming care happens overnight or in the blink of an eye. Don't believe me? Here's Trump relaying this exact message with this concerning scenario.
There's so many, the transgender operations, where they're allowed to take your child when he goes to school and turn him into a male, to a female, without parental consent. Can you imagine you're a parent and your son leaves the house and you say, Jimmy, I love you so much, go have a good day in school, and your son comes back with a brutal operation. Can you even imagine this?
But the transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. The school decides what's going to happen with your child. And you know, many of these childs 15 years later say, what the hell happened? Who did this to me?
Transgender, no operations. You know, they take your kid. There are some places, your boy leaves the school, comes back, a girl, okay? Without parental consent. At first, when I was told that was actually happening, I said, you know, it's an exaggeration. No, it happens. It happens. There are areas where it happens.
In case it wasn't abundantly clear, this is entirely false and fabricated. This claim was debunked by various sources, but Trump continued to announce it at campaign events he attended as if it were truth. Much of Trump's power comes from misinformation and uneducated people he can manipulate into believing fake news. This isn't their fault, of course. Trump's control over the media and his followers is powerful. Now, there are many misconceptions surrounding trans people and gender-affirming care that support Trump and his anti-trans attacks. Because of this seemingly wide-held belief and other preposterous ones like it, I wanted to document and share the reality of medical transition, focusing specifically on the procedure known as top surgery. Top surgery, also known as a bilateral mastectomy, is a procedure that removes unwanted breast tissue in individuals assigned female at birth to create a more masculine chest appearance. This procedure is common for transgender males as well as some gender non-conforming people who were assigned female at birth. It is considered gender-affirming care and has produced great results for the mental health of trans individuals who undergo it.
Top surgery was a part of my transition too. After realizing I was trans, talking to my parents, and starting some other gender-affirming care, such as testosterone injections, I knew that top surgery was another viable option for me. After a lot of research, conversations with my therapist, my parents, and my gender health specialist, I came to the conclusion that it was for me. I researched hospitals and surgeons and got recommendations for surgeons from my gender health specialist too. We made phone calls and planned consultation meetings and landed on the Krieger Institute of Plastic Surgery, which was a perfect fit for me. I was able to come in and talk to the surgeons and talk to some other of their staff, and was able to get top surgery just 2 months after that. But let me back up, because this experience isn't the same for everyone. I'd like to introduce Jude and Brick.
Yeah. So my name is Jude. My pronouns are they, them. So I identify as trans non-binary, and I live in West Hollywood with my wife and my dog Mochi, who's a white husky.
So my name is Brick Braun. I am 17 and I'm a junior. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a theater kid, backstage theater kid. Big thing about me.
Jude and Brick are two other trans people who also got top surgery and were gracious enough to let me interview them via Zoom to talk about their experience.
So it wasn't until I want to say a few years after I came out as non-binary that I started to think about medical options. I think because of my upbringing and like society, I think I had some internalized transphobia for sure, and I was taking slow steps, firstly accept myself as who I am. Every step I was like, oh, this feels really good, this feels like me. What happened for me is I had one of my best friends who's trans non-binary, and I'm so grateful for them because they were actually my first like in real life example of I think of both a trans and a trans non-binary person. And they were the first person to lend me my first binder. So before then, I'd wear sports bras. I was always, standing like this in pictures, always trying to hide myself. I remember we went to this party in LA, and I remember wearing that binder for the first time, feeling amazing. Like the confidence was insane. I bought my own binder. I started to realize that I felt much more comfortable in a binder than anything else. And then slowly I was like, I should consider, permanently adjusting my body to be me. That first realization that I wanted to do that was scary, I think, because, surgery's a very permanent and scary thing. I hadn't really had surgeries. I just had like wisdom teeth out. So it was my first real surgery.
When in your transition did you start to consider medical options?
Pretty early on, thought about it. I didn't think it was an option for me being under 18. For a while, I just knew like as soon as I can, I will. And after a while of being on T and like having the changes, it helps so much with my dysphoria, but I always just like had this huge thing about my chest. And I already had a binder for cosplaying, so I like would wear that like constantly too. And it was still like always a lot. And it's so funny the saying, get the weight off your chest, because it was literally that. You get the weight off your chest and you don't feel it anymore. So, because I'm going to Children's Hospital. So what happened is that My therapist sent something in to them, and then they met with me and they talked to me, and then I met with a doctor, and I finally got put on T. And then after a while being put on T, having consistent like check-ins on how that was going and progressing is when I learned about like possibly top surgery and that I was able to do it. And I immediately was like, yes, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
With different levels of support, access to accurate information, and resources, getting top surgery varies in difficulty. There are many different barriers to gender-affirming care in any form, but surgery is most difficult to access most times. Different institutions have different protocol, different surgeons have different wait lists and time frames, and every top surgeon has a list of qualifications and requirements. A more recent hurdle created by the Trump administration has been age, since Donald Trump signed an executive order attempting to limit gender-affirming care to those under the age of 19. This order affected me greatly when searching for a surgeon, since the majority of the hospitals we called wouldn't even allow me to come in for a consultation unless I was over 19. Another hurdle was cost. Top surgery, being a major medical procedure, is expensive, and not something I was willing or able to pay out of pocket. Thankfully, top surgery can be covered by my family's insurance. Emphasis on can. Now, I'd like to introduce someone who helped my family and I so much throughout this process, and who accepted my offer to mentor me for this project.
So my name is Sunshine. I'm going to be 27 this year. My pronouns are she, her. I am a mommy. I have a few kids. For my career, I'm the insurance coordinator at the Krieger Institute of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery. So generally what I do is I meet with the patient after consult. I'm the primary point of contact and kind of liaison between the billing department and the patient themselves. So I'll go over financial responsibility, what to expect on the day of surgery, as well as just supporting all around, care throughout. It's a really emotional journey and process. So I'm just their primary source of contact, and I put them on the schedule if clearance is needed, blood work, EKG, all that good stuff, as well as just kind of guide you through what to expect.
Sunshine was the biggest help during this process, and was the reason I was able to get this surgery at all. Her role is vital to the Krieger Institute, and she sees a different side of gender-affirming care that most people wouldn't even think of. Something that Sunshine really helped with is the letter of support. One of the requirements for insurance coverage was a letter of support from your therapist stating that you are fit for this procedure and in need of it.
In following the WPATH guidelines for getting top surgery, a letter of support has to come from a licensed mental health professional with certain certifications. Thankfully, my therapist has those certifications and has written these letters of support before.
However, Sunshine shared that these letters have become more difficult to get accepted as of late.
I will say they've been paying a lot more attention to what these letters contain. Last year, I would say as long as it touched base on a few major points, it was just kind of luck of the draw. But Anthem in particular, I feel has really cracked down on their guidelines. There's a few Anthem-specific denial reasons. With every policy, the criteria could be different. But now they've become a lot more strict on these letters and what they need to contain.
Although there has not been written proof that insurance companies are getting stricter on accepting WPATH letters, the administration has proposed plans to limit access to gender-affirming care by changing how insurance plans cover gender-affirming care as essential health benefits. This is yet another way that the Trump administration has tried to attack the trans community and stop gender-affirming care from being accessible to the people who need it most. After all the preparation and meetings and consultations, the days before the surgery come. This was my first ever surgery, so I was pretty nervous. The days leading up to the surgery were nerve-wracking and busy. I was just figuring out the restrictions that I was going to have to deal with after the surgery, and I was going to my school to tell them that I was going to have to take at least 2 weeks off before I could get back to work. This was hard and took up a lot of my time, and so when the day finally arrived, I felt unsure for a moment. This is a major life-changing thing, but after some quick pondering, it was the right thing to do. Showing up on that day, there was an air of excitement. I was figuring out what to do after surgery. My dad was reassuring me on what to do when I was waking up from anesthesia. My IV kept getting stuck. But I finally got into that room. And before I knew it, I woke up from anesthesia and was being wheeled out to my car. I didn't really know what was going on, but I knew I had made it. The next few weeks were a bit of a blur. There was a lot of heightened feelings and emotions, and there was a lot of pain that I had to go through. But at the end of the day, it was all worth it when I saw the results. That feeling when you first get to see what your chest looks like after is indescribable. I asked my interviewees this question, though, and asked them to try their best to describe what the feeling of gender euphoria is to them.
You know, I've thought about this. I think from an outward perspective, everyone thinks top surgery, like trans procedures, you're changing yourself. Like you're taking these, steps to change yourself. But I think it feels like coming home, which I know is like super corny to say. When I feel gender euphoria, I feel like I'm coming home. So I feel as I've transitioned, I've just gotten back to that sense of home in myself.
Like the normal, feeling of just pure happiness, honestly. It's just like pure serotonin. It just feels like really sweet, and it feels like when you thought you bombed a test and you actually got an A. It's like you see yourself and you're like, yes, this is all I ever wanted.
Our world can be a cruel, terrible, and disheartening place a lot of the time. Though we've made so many improvements, there are times when it seems like we take 10 steps back and all feels lost, but it's not. If there's anything to take away from this project, it's that there is joy left in the world. There are people out there living their lives as their most genuine selves, spreading joy from just being who they really are. Trans joy is a beautiful thing, and connecting with Brick and Jude reminded me of that. I'm so thankful to be living the life I am, and seeing others living a more fulfilling life because of their gender-affirming care as well makes me feel even more hopeful for our future. As always, trans rights are human rights. Thanks for watching.